Hello friends, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be going to a very special adventure. Enjoy! Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. We are now visiting the Holy Trinity Cathedral, Downpatrick, which is under the Church of Ireland. Inside the church on your left, you can see the stones of the St. Patrick's Cross. In the 18th century, the church was rebuilt by William Amosley. The stone structure in the middle is the baptismal font, which was originally the stone base of the 10th, 11th century cross. Look how beautiful the inside of this church is. Look how beautiful the altar is.
Explain St. Patrick's life story here, and then I leave you to explore. But this window is Patrick's life story. So the very top picture there, the figure in brown, that's Patrick at age 16. He would have been captured by raiding Irishmen and brought here to Ireland. Now we reckon he came from North Britain, possibly Wales, and when he was captured, he was sold into slavery. So the bottom pane with the purple in the background, the purple represents Slemish Mountain. That's where he was held in captivity for like 6 long years. It was during his time in captivity that he did actually come to faith and put his trust in the Lord. I mean, it would have been a lonely time for him there. I mean, isolated, 16. What age are you, Joshua? 11. Can you imagine, a few years, so, and in fact, what age? 19. Well, a few years younger than yourself, stuck in a country that you didn't even know the language. It must have been horrific. So during his time here, that's when he would have said in his confess, so he would have said like 100 prayers per day. Well, he eventually escaped slavery after 6 years, and he managed to board a ship and returned home. And somewhere along the line he trained in missionary work. Some say he trained in France and came back as a bishop. Well, all I can say is the figure in white there, that's Patrick coming back here to Ireland to tell the people here about God. And when he did come back to Ireland, we reckon he came back in about 432. He would have travelled from Wicklow up north to Strangford Lough and got off the boat at the mouth of the Slaney River, and that really is on the outskirts of Downpatrick. So when he got off the boat there, he met a chieftain and converted the chieftain to Christianity. So that chieftain would have given Patrick a little barn to use for shelter, and also his first church here in Ireland. And Saul Church sits about 2.5 miles from the outskirts of town, which is free to visit, so do go out there, because there's a little church currently sits on that site, the site that we call the Cradle of Christianity. So Patrick wouldn't have had the luxury of the little stone church that sits there. He would have had no doubt some kind of a wooden structure, but it's a special place. And then he would have travelled from there, converting people to Christianity and founding churches. So we reckon towards the end of his life he was very closely affiliated with Armagh, and that's where he thought he would have spent his final days, but that just wasn't to be. So he returned to Saul, and he would have been tended by Bishop Tassoc of Reholp, and he sadly died in, we reckon, the 17th of March in 461. But some people say 493. There's a lot of things we don't know, but there's one sure thing. I mean, there's two places closely connected. I mean, his burial, have you been out to the burial site there, to the stone? Have you been out there yet? Have you been out to where the grave is?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So, getting back to the top one. So Patrick died at Saul, and in case you're wondering how he managed to get from Saul to here, because I mean it's 2.5 miles away, one of Patrick's wishes on his death was that 2 untamed oxen would carry his body on a cart. So where that cart stood still, there a church would be erected in his memory, and hence, if you've been out to the slab of granite that marks the grave, that's how Patrick ended up here on what would have been known as the Hill of Down. Because the churches didn't exist way back then, they all sprung up after Patrick. Okay? And then the bottom pane, you'll see 3 figures. Out at the grave, if you've read the plaque, you will see that not only Patrick is buried here on the Hill of Down, we have Bridget and Columkill. So all 3 saints are buried together here on the hill. So Columkill, he took the word of God out to Iona in Scotland. 3 saints here on the Hill of Down, yeah. So it's outside. It's outside. So just when you go to the front door and you look to the left, there's like 5 steps. And when you go up the 5 steps, there's a short path, and it stops at a large slab of granite. And that slab of granite would have been placed on the grave in 1901 by Francis Joseph Bigger. And the slab of granite actually was quarried at Slieve na Largy outside Castle Welland. And what we're told is it took, 12 men, 14 days to carve out that slab of granite. And you need to look closely at it. I think you've already been up, have you? Did you notice the cross on the front of it, the Celtic cross, and then Patrick's name on it? And did you read the plaque beside it? There's a little plaque beside it that tells you about all 3 saints. So there you go. This is our Bishop's Cathedral, and we know this because the mitre, see a little hat on top, that's the mitre, the Bishop's mitre. The Bishop would only be here for certain services. For example, St Patrick's Day. Lots of clergy here, but the Bishop would be, that's his seat. Okay. The main minister here is the Dean. I'm the Dean's secretary. Bishop, you have the judge's seat. In the 1800s, the judge would have travelled to Downpatrick by train, and he would have stayed on this street here because the courthouse is on this street. So when he came to church on a Sunday, that would have been his special seat. But today it's used by special visitors, or sometimes the clergy would sit there if there was a concert or something on. And the rest of the box pews, those date back to the early 1800s, and the seating style is a late 18th century adaptation of medieval choir arrangement style seating. So you should try.
This organ dates back to the 1800s and is over 200 years old.
Shamrock detail, and of course that's what Patrick used to explain the Holy Trinity, Father, Son and Holy Spirit. Yeah. And then of course on St Patrick's Day they'll have a little shamrock on it because we have the pleasure of making them up.
This cathedral is the Cathedral Church of Holy Trinity. Hello friends, I'm going to show you where the burial site of St Patrick, St Columkill and St Bridget. Underneath the stone is St Patrick, St Bridget and St Columkill.
porch.
Yeah.
Did you look at the stone pieces in the porch?
Yeah.
They're original pieces of the St Patrick's cross that would have been at the grave.
Oh.
Yes, and those date back to I think the 700s. And all I can say is, in 2018 we had two celebrations. First of all, the cathedral was restored. There's a lot I didn't tell you, but they started to restore the cathedral in the late 1700s. And eventually 1818 it was open for proper sit-down worship as an Anglican cathedral. So in 2018 we celebrated 200 years of the church being open for worship since restoration, and they celebrated with a service of sung matins. So the organ that we saw, that's over 200 years. They played music from over the centuries.
Okay.
That replica cross is formed out of the stone pieces in the porch. Those would have been digitally scanned by a 3D imaging machine, and they created the St Patrick's cross. So in days gone by, that's what they reckon the cross would have looked like at Patrick's grave. So that's a replica cross.
Right.
So you have to go over and have a look at it.
Bye friends, and I'll see you in the next video.